Viking Age, 793 AD. Before we talk about warriors, forget the movie version for a second. No horned helmets, no slow-motion roaring. Survival as a Viking fighter was mostly logistics. Cold hands, salt-cracked lips, wet wool that never truly dries, and a job that pays in silver only if you come home alive. Today, I'm going to do something we can't normally do. I used modern AI tools to reconstruct what it really took to survive as a Viking warrior in 793, built from archaeology, ship finds, weapon marks, burial goods, and the written scraps we still have. In a few places, details are educated guesses, because time erases colour, voices, and smells. But the goal is accuracy, where we can prove it, and honesty where we can't. So let's walk it, step by step. Not from a textbook, from street level, from the inside. Big map view first. Our city isn't a city the way Rome is a city. It's a coastline, a fjord, a cluster of farms, a hall and a beach where ships sleep upside down like animals. From places like this, small crews could reach the North Sea, then England, then the wider world. That's the machine. Timber, iron, wind and hunger. Stop. 1. The longhouse. Pre-dawn. The first thing you notice is the smoke. Not dramatic smoke, daily smoke. It stains the rafters and your lungs. A Viking warrior wakes up where everyone wakes up, in the same room as children, old men, dogs, tools, and the smell of last night's stew. If you're young, you're not a warrior yet. You're useful. You carry water. You split wood. You learn to endure being uncomfortable without complaining, because complaining is a luxury. Here's the pressure point. Winter, hunger, reputation. A bad harvest can crush a family. A feud can crush your name. When people say raiding, sometimes they mean survival math. What's here today? The ghost lines of post holes, charcoal stains, the footprint of a hall you can stand inside only in your imagination. Stop 2. The smithy, morning light. Now the sound changes. Hammer on iron, a rhythm that feels like time itself. This is where survival becomes metal. Weapons are not props. They're expensive. Iron is work. A sword is status, often inherited, repaired, named. Most men carry simpler tools that can kill: spear, axe, axe knife. Your shield is life. If the shield fails, the story ends fast. Human reality. You're learning how to keep gear alive. Sharpen edges, oil leather, stitch-torn straps. A warrior who can't maintain his kit is a liability. Mini-story. A smith tests a blade by flexing it, listening. If it cracks, the shame isn't just his, it's yours. You might die because a rivet was rushed. What survives today? Bent spearheads, shield bosses, pattern-welded blades pulled from rivers, still stubborn after centuries. Stop 3. The ship shed and beach, late morning. Here's the real miracle, the ship, long, light and terrifying. It is the difference between farmers with weapons and a force that can appear anywhere. You run your hand along tarred planks, smell pine resin, feel the wood swell with moisture. Every nail matters, every seam matters, because the ocean is not impressed by courage. Pressure point, weather. One wrong decision and you don't drown heroically. You vanish, quietly, in the grey. Mini-story. An older sailor checks the wind, checks the clouds, checks the tide like he's reading a law. He's not superstitious, he's practical, he's buried friends. What's here today? Ship burials, rivet lines, the curves of reconstructed hulls that prove these boats were engineered, not guessed. Stop 4. The thing, midday. This is not a battlefield. This is power. A Viking warrior survives by belonging to something, a household, a crew, a law. The thing is where disputes get weighed, where compensation gets set, where exile gets declared. And exile is basically a slow death sentence wearing a polite face. Human reality. You watch, you learn who speaks, who stays silent, who smiles without warmth. You learn that violence is a tool, but legitimacy is a weapon. Mini-story. A man is ordered to pay silver for an injury. He can't. He storms off. Everyone knows what happens next. Feuds aren't chaos, they're predictable, like storms. What survives today? Place names, law codes written later, echoing older rules, and the steady fact that a society can be brutal and organized at the same time. Stop 5. Training ground, afternoon. Forget duels in perfect circles. Training is rough and repetitive. You throw spears until your shoulder burns. You practice stepping, not just striking, because footing decides who lives. Shield work is everything. The shield is your door, your wall, your friend. You learn to take hits without flinching. You learn to keep your breath steady when your heart wants to sprint away. Pressure point, injury. A twisted ankle can end a season. Infection can end a life. There's no rest and recover plan. There's only, can you still work? What survives today? Cut marks on bone, healed fractures, bodies that tell the story of violence that didn't always finish the job. Stop 6. The fjord mouth. Evening before departure. Now comes the quiet that feels like a cliff edge. You pack light, dried fish, grain, water skins, a few personal things, maybe a small charm. Not because you're romantic, but because you're human and you want the universe to blink in your favor. The leader doesn't announce a speech. He just moves with certainty. The crew follows. That's how you know he's been out before. Mini story. Someone jokes too loudly. Nobody laughs. The sea is close. You can feel it pulling at your stomach. What's here today? Shorelines, ancient landing spots, and the blunt truth that most departures were ordinary until they weren't. Stop 7. At sea. Night. This is where the myth dies and the work begins. Rowing is pain, salt stings your hands, spray soaks your clothes, sleep comes in scraps. You sit shoulder to shoulder with men you trust and men you don't, and you learn to hate the sound of your own teeth chattering. Pressure point. Fear. Not loud fear. The quiet kind. The kind that makes you count waves. Mini story. The helmsman calls a change. Oars bite water. The ship turns. For a moment the stars look wrong. Then they settle. Everyone breathes again. What survives today? Not much. The sea keeps its receipts. Before dawn on open water, there's a moment nobody romanticizes. The body checks. Blisters split. Salt dries into cracks. Someone vomits over the side and tries to laugh it off. Someone else prays to a god he won't admit to in daylight. You eat because you must. Hard bread, dried meat. Whatever survives damp. And you drink carefully, because fresh water is more precious than silver out here. Navigation is a brutal art. You watch the sun, the swell, the birds, the colour of water. You memorize coastlines like faces. One fog bank can turn confidence into guessing, and guessing is how ships become stories other people tell. Even the strong get small in the dark. That's why the crew sings, counts, strokes, tells the same joke again. Anything to keep the fear from becoming a decision. For 1 more mile. Stop 8. Lindisfarne. Dawn. Now the coast appears. Low land. A monastery. A place built for prayer, not defence. First you notice the bell. Then the shock on faces that have never seen men land like this. Fast. Organised. Silent. This is the pivotal moment people remember. 793. The raid that burned itself into chronicles. But inside it's smaller and uglier. It's boots on stone. It's hands grabbing. It's the panic of realizing you don't speak the same language as the people begging you. Pressure point. Discipline. If the crew fractures into chaos, you get trapped. You die here, far from home, and your name rots in salt air. Mini story. A monk hides a book under a floorboard. Another tries to bargain with a cup of silver. Someone swings an axe at a locked door and discovers the door was never the point. What's here today? Ruins, foundations, a landscape that still feels exposed, and written accounts, frightened, biased, human, describing heathens like a storm with hands. Stop 9. The return. Days later, survival isn't winning. Survival is getting back. You carry loot, but you also carry consequences. Storms, pursuit, the slow spread of stories, the way one raid makes the next harder because the world wakes up. Human reality, you're exhausted and now you have to be careful. A warrior with silver becomes a target at home. Friends become rivals, luck becomes envy. What survives today? Hoards buried in a hurry, silver cut into hacks to make fair shares, the archaeology of someone thinking, I'll come back for it, and never doing it. Stop 10. The legacy, years later. So what did it really take to survive? Not just strength, not just courage. It took a system, ships that could outrun consequences, law that kept feuds from swallowing everyone, Ironwork that turned effort into edge, and social bonds strong enough to hold a crew together when fear tried to split it. And it took something else: adaptability. Vikings weren't only raiders, they were traders, settlers, mercenaries, negotiators. The warrior who survived long enough often became the man who stopped fighting, because living matters more than the story.